After the sacking of Prime Minister Ana Jara, President Ollanta Humala declared that Congress had acted irresponsibly and the executive cannot afford to follow the same path. He defended Ana Jara by saying she was sanctioned even though she took steps to restructure the intelligence system where others were not brave enough. Humala confirmed he would adhere to the required procedures and select a new cabinet before the deadline on Thursday night, but avoided giving any names in advance. Those congresspeople on the left who voted in favor of sacking the Prime Minister have declared that the decision was not easy. On the one hand, the vote was led by other right-wing forces who are only looking for their own political gain. But on the other hand, they could not support a government that has been spying on social movement leaders and pushing for unpopular and anti-labor legislation. Rael Mora, TeleSUR, Peru.
As Colombia's peace process advances in Havana, members of the Congressional Peace Commission have begun discussing the economic funds that an eventual post-conflict period will require. For Ángela Robledo, peace is something that all Colombians should contribute to, but particularly big entrepreneurs.
Pagan los impuestos. It
is true that many of the entrepreneurs pay taxes and have been socially responsible, but that is not enough. For many years, Colombia has had a war tax, so I believe that now is time to contribute to peace.
For the peace advocate Senator Iván Cepeda, achieving peace should be seen as an opportunity to strengthen the national economy. To this end, he highlights the positive benefits already seen as a result of the FARC's unilateral ceasefire.
From that perspective, members of the business community should invest in peace, invest through taxes, or also in projects funded by big entrepreneurs.
That said, powerful economic players in Colombia have a long-standing role in perpetuating the conflict, as highlighted in a recent report by the Colombia's Historical Commission of the Conflict.
Los grandes ganaderos, los grandes agricultores, los grandes terratenientes.
Big cattle ranchers, big members of agribusiness, big landlords have not just profited from war, but they've also been the direct promoters and funders of the paramilitary groups.
For Vega, it is common that within an armed conflict, those that directly engage in war activities are seen as the only ones responsible of the crimes. But he insists that behind them are the sectors that give the orders and supply the funds.
It is obviously reasonable that once they start to clarify the role that these sectors have played in the armed conflict, which should come as a result of the necessary investigation and social research, those responsible sectors must contribute to the construction of a different country.
What is clear for many analysts is that those who have economically benefited from decades of war should now equally contribute to the achievement of peace. Natalia Margarita, TeleSUR, Bogotá.
Mexican federal police arrested on Tuesday in the northern state of Tamaulipas the presumed intellectual author behind a 2010 massacre of 72 mostly Central American undocumented migrants in the community of San Fernando. Now, according to an announcement by authorities, Jose Guadalupe Reyes Rivera, also known as El Sassy, was detained in a car mechanic shop in the town of Ciudad Victoria. The presumed member of the violent Zetas drug cartel was considered by authorities to have carried out the massacre, which was only discovered by the Mexican army after one man survived, faked his death, and left with gunshot wounds seeking help. Now, this arrest only comes 3 months after Mexico's Attorney General officially recognized that police also participated in the San Fernando massacre, as well as the murders of at least 193 people found in subsequent clandestine graves in April of 2011. While announcements of municipal police arrests from San Fernando were made back in 2011, it was not made specific as to why or if they were directly connected to the massacre. This is Clayton Kahn reporting for TeleSUR here in Mexico City.
The lower house of the Argentine Congress started the discussion over the railways nationalization bill sent by President Cristina Fernández on March 1st. Members of the ruling party, the Front for Victory, pointed out differences between this draft and what previous governments did on railways.
It wasn't this government who shut down 15,000 kilometers of railroads, nor was it the one that fired 68,000 railway workers. It wasn't this government. It was this government that, with many difficulties, maintained a tariff policy that was part of the income policy of this country.
The head of the Transport Commission of the lower house said that the representatives for the opposition showed a critical attitude towards the future operation in the new public-owned company that will be created if the bill passes.
There
will be several questions about some matters that we don't totally agree on. Above all, for some, the system we are building isn't clear. It is actually a holding company where there will be 3 companies operating. It is a very similar system to the French system, which means the state railway agencies will work in a horizontal manner.
Horizontalidad en los organismos en materia ferroviaria.
The bill also illustrates the strategic goals that the Cristina Fernández administration is pursuing regarding railway transportation.
El Estado, a partir de esta
The state, throughout this bill, will be the owner and the administrator of all the railroads, therefore not permitting another divestment process like the one that started in the 90s.
The discussion will continue over the next weeks with the participation of specialists in rail transportation and with the presence of the Transport Minister Florencio Randazzo. Laureano Ponce, TeleSUR, Buenos Aires.
The Arab Students' Union in Syria protested on Monday in front of the UN office to condemn foreign aggressions against Yemen. The demonstrators called on the international community to stop the war against the Arab nation.
The aggression against Yemen is part of the aggression against all Arab nations, including Syria, Libya, and Yemen. We know that the United States, Zionists, and their Arab allies are aiming to destroy the Arab capabilities.
According to international organizations, the humanitarian situation is getting worse due to the Saudi-led attacks on Yemen, which entered their 5th day on Monday. Many Arab students believe the involvement of their governments in the war against Yemen is not supported by the majority of their people.
The political decisions which are taken from the governments of the countries are opposite to the people's views. There is no one from the Arab people who are with the external intervention against their brothers. And the government of Sudan is participating in the coalition only to improve its relation with Saudi Arabia.
Many countries in the Arab League expressed the possibility of sending ground troops into Yemen if necessary. After a 2-day summit that ended on Sunday, the US allied Arab nations agreed on what they claim will be a joint intervention force to fight terrorism in the region. Nashwan Abdullah, TeleSUR, Damascus, Syria.
As the Egyptian army conducts a homes demolition campaign across the Egyptian-Gazan borders in order to place a buffer zone with the coastal enclave, several terrorist attacks rocked the Sheikh Zayed city in the northern Sinai. Egyptian medical sources reported that at least 10 Egyptian soldiers were killed and 17 others were injured in the attacks by extremist armed groups on Thursday. Palestinian groups condemned the attacks and pointed out the terrorists were not from Gaza. Since October 2014, Egypt has been imposing a tough siege on the Gaza Strip, keeping the Rafah border with Gaza constantly closed and stopping humanitarian aid from entering the coastal enclave, all under the pretext of Egyptian security. Leading members of the Hamas movement in Gaza have said that the new Egyptian government is imposing the same unfair conditions on the Gaza Strip as those experienced under former President Hosni Mubarak, and argue that such policies should not continue in the aftermath of the latest uprising. Noor Harazin, TeleSUR TV, Gaza.